remember, like, I would not send a photo out to someone unless I had a filter on my face. I used to do that a lot. Like, I think it's really, really toxic. They make me feel like I'm only pretty with makeup. Interesting. I need a sip of tea for that one. It's time to get loud. Welcome back to Loud Talk with Lavi, a podcast where we break down the walls of beauty standards one flaw at a time. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Loud Talk. We are on episode 5. Oh my goodness, I cannot even believe I'm filming the 5th episode. I honestly look forward to this every single week. And I know it's only been a few weeks of me filming this podcast, but truly it has really become something, like a part of my life that I thoroughly enjoy, and I love just like the calmness vibes of it and how I can just sit here and just really like chill out and talk to you guys. It's honestly so amazing because I don't know, there's like no pressure. I feel like I can just come on here and really just have a good time and come out of it with lots of great thoughts and a lot of reflecting on everything that, you know, I share and all the topics we talk about. So I've really been enjoying this, and I hope that you guys are enjoying these episodes as well. I would love to hear your input on what you want to see on the podcast and, you know, different topics you want me to talk about. I'm totally okay to kind of venture out of the beauty space. I really want this to be a podcast where we just discuss different topics that we should be a little more loud about in today's society that maybe some people are a little more quiet about or don't feel comfortable to talk about. This is really the podcast where I want it to be like, let's get loud, let's talk about these things, because there's so many things that are important and not enough people talk about, like when it comes to beauty standards or, you know, normalizing normal skin and acne positivity and just different topics like that within the beauty industry or in the fitness industry. There's just so many things, and I definitely want this podcast to be that safe space for that. So I hope that it becomes that for you, and I am definitely so excited to see where this can grow and what we can do with this podcast and really open up those conversations. You know, I want this to be that place where we have those open conversations and we're not afraid to say it loudly. So just had to say that right there, and I definitely want to get your input. If there's any topics you want, let me know on Instagram or in my Discord, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you comment it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Loud Talk and what you think about the podcast so far and what you would like to see in the future. But let's get into this episode because I'm really excited for this one. Of course, before we dive into the main topic of this episode, which is going to be all around beauty filters and social media filters, and I think the dangers that come along with not only using these filters, but having them flood your social media pages all day long and only seeing photos of people with filtered skin, and how that can really be taxing on our mental health and our perception of ourselves and our overall confidence. And there's a lot that I have thoughts on in that area, and we're going to get all into it for sure. But to start off this podcast, like I will always start off the podcast with Loud Talk here, I'm going to start off with something I've been loving about my skin recently, loving about myself, and then something that maybe I wasn't so positive about this past week, and how I turned that around into a more positive situation and how I got out of that rut. So let's start off with what I've been loving about myself and my skin recently. I have to say, I feel like it is so glowy. I posted a photo on my Instagram and I got a lot of comments, you know, DMs back on the photo or comments directly on the story saying your skin is just like glowing. And I just feel like I've really been putting in the work recently to make sure that it's healing really nicely. And I've kind of figured out how to keep it from getting so dry this winter. I don't know what it was about this winter, if it's like comes with age or what it was, but this winter was drier than no other, especially on my skin. I felt it so much. My eyelids have been really dry. My whole face has been really dry, but I've really kind of perfected my skincare so that when I go to bed, I look like a glazed donut, but then I still wake up with this really glowy skin, and it also helps with my makeup application. And overall, like, my skin is just healing so nicely, you know, even with the acne and stuff and the acne scars, it just looks so glowy and radiant, and I'm obsessed. I've been loving that so much about my skin. So it's definitely the best feeling to like look in the mirror and just like love your skin, you know, even though it's not perfect, even though I have so many imperfections. I've just been really enjoying that about my skin lately. And then something that I haven't been loving so much lately, actually this past week, I did get down on myself about my body, and we're gonna get super real here. I just was not feeling myself, and it's crazy because last week I was in LA and I was wearing like all these fun outfits, and I was feeling myself so much. I felt so confident. I took so many photos, and I was really loving like how I looked, how my clothes were fitting, everything. And I don't know what it was, but this past week, like, I hadn't been going to the gym. I felt like super bloated all week, which is completely normal. Of course, that's gonna happen, but I was just like not feeling it. I was really not feeling myself, and I started to get really down on myself, and I was kind of doing that whole over analyzing myself in the mirror and picking my whole body apart and everything I didn't like and all these things. And then I was like, what am I doing? You know, like, I really had to take that step back. And I always encourage you guys, you know, if you start that over analyzing, you're getting in your head, you're really picking yourself apart, take that step back and physically stop yourself from just all this self sabotage, because it's really not doing anything. You're putting your energy in the wrong place, and it's not going to help you feel better in any way, shape, or form. So I definitely recommend like taking that step back and turning it around. So I immediately felt that way. I was very like vocal about it. I like called my boyfriend and I told him like, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling like right now. And like, I just kind of like walked him through how I was feeling. And sometimes that can help to talk with someone or write it down, you know, take that moment to acknowledge how you feel, but then kind of stop that negativity and see how you're going to move forward from it. So the next day, like, it was late at night, so I went to bed, and the next day I woke up and I picked out a really fun outfit that I loved, that I wore to work. I wore this like black and white blazer that I was obsessed with, and I just felt like an absolute boss lady, you know. And I did my makeup all nice, and I felt so confident that day. So I really just made sure that I was setting myself up for the next day to feel my absolute best, and that's really what you should do every time. So yeah, feeling down about yourself or how you look is totally normal. We're human, we're gonna do it, but it's all about how you come back from it, and that definitely really helped me the next day. So there you go. That's my kind of highlight and low of the week on how I felt about myself. So now we can get into kind of the, you know, the core of this episode. I'm really excited for this one because I am going to have a lot to say. So let's get into it, talking all about beauty filters. I actually asked you guys on Instagram today what your thoughts on beauty filters were, because I was very curious what the stance was. Do we like them? Do we hate them? I have my opinions, and we'll get into what I think, but I definitely wanted to hear, like, from you guys as viewers, what is your stance on these filters that are, in my opinion, so, like, saturated on social media, and you literally can't get away from them. So I do have all of those responses. I want to go through those first, just to get a feel for how people feel, and then we'll get into my thoughts. So first up, someone said, they make me feel insecure and ugly, but sometimes it helps me understand that we are perfect. Interesting. So I think there is a lot of insecurity that can stem from filters, because, you know, you open up any social media app, you go on Instagram, and all you see is like flawless looking skin, snatched faces, beautiful bright eyes, like everything is perfect to a T. But is it like, you know, and I'm not taking away from any of these beautiful people on Instagram, because I think a lot of these people that use filters on their photos are stunning and do not need these filters, but it can be very deceiving, and sometimes even just the slightest modification can make such a difference. And I've made posts about this before on my social media, but like even just smoothing out a pimple or two, right? It's just like, it's such a small change, and anybody else that maybe looks at that photo and doesn't see the original version probably won't even know that you edited it or that you put a filter on it. But what it does is it can be very damaging for someone viewing it, because they're like, oh, that person just like has flawless skin, which not true. Like they might They might, but like they might not. And I think it can, instill this damaging kind of effect on us where we just see someone and we really do start to think that that's what they look like in real life. And the thing is, nowadays, some of these filters are so natural looking that you don't even know, you can't even tell that there's a filter on. So you really start to think that this is the new normal. This is the new real life, when in fact it's a filter and it's editing or it's lighting or it's angles, and it really can become damaging because, even when I see a lot of those posts on Instagram that are like pose versus relaxed. And if you think about it, there's no filter or editing on that. It's just a pose and an angle and maybe some lighting that can really make the difference. But if we see a photo of someone flexing in the right lighting at the right angle and they look perfectly toned and everything, we see that photo on social media and we think, oh, that is how they look in their everyday life. That is a real life photo. That is how that person looks. And then you look at yourself in the mirror, relaxed, not posing, not in the right lights, not in the right angle. And you're like, but I don't look like that. And do you see how that can start kind of this negativity and bad mindset in your brain on how you perceive yourself and how you start to compare yourself to other people? When in reality, if you had, you were flexing, you were posed correctly, you had the right lighting and the right angle, and that photo was taken right there as a snapshot, not a real life moving image, but a snapshot, you're probably going to look pretty close to that Instagram person, and then you see these photos online of people showing like their posed versus relaxed looks, and you see that difference. They're both real life photos. They're just taken at two different moments in time, minutes apart, seconds apart. But it can be really damaging when we only see that half side of the photo. You know what I mean? So I think it's really interesting, because it can really instill that insecurity and the feeling that we're not enough, kind of like this person said. So that's definitely interesting. Someone else said, I don't know since I am not using them myself. So they don't really know. This is a fair point. I'm glad that not everyone out there is using filters, but, I'm glad you're not feeling really affected by them. That's actually really great to hear. Someone said disgusting, and someone else said like absolute shit. See, this is where I start to have an issue with these filters online, because as I said, like you just start that comparing process, and it's just so difficult because like, even though I feel like in our subconscious, we know there's a filter on that photo, like their eyes are not that bright blue or their skin is not that smooth, especially on TikTok, because on TikTok, the beauty filter, you can't tell if someone's using, which I think is really dangerous and really a big issue. But let's talk a second about the filters that you can see, and how when you go on the app on someone's video, it will say the filter that they're using. So even though we know there's a filter on there, I feel like we still look at the video as an overall whole, and we see this person with perfect skin, perfect eyes, like perfect complexion, and we're like sitting in bed like with a bun, or hair up in a bun, sweatpants, no makeup, scrolling on TikTok, and we're like, well, I don't look like that right now, and it's like, why are we comparing ourselves when, like, people always say like you're comparing apples to oranges, right? But it's like true, because like if you got all done up and you put this like filter on that really just like minorly adjusts your face in all the right places, you are also going to be that person that people are going to compare themselves to. So I totally see why people feel this way, because I used to feel this way too. And it's still, I get in that mindset where I see someone on social media and these filters just make me feel gross and disgusting. And the thing is, it's not only seeing other people on social media with these filters on, but it's also when you film like a video or you take a photo of yourself and you have a filter on, and then all of a sudden that filter comes off. And then you see yourself again in real life, and then you start to compare your own self to the filtered version of yourself, and you start to like the filtered version of yourself a little bit more each and every day. And then you become attached to this filter, and you need to use the filter every day because you like that version of yourself more, this unattainable version that is simply not real, and it's animated, and it's a filter that's going to, as I said, tweak all the right things so it still looks like you, but it's like this like better upgraded version of you that you can't obtain, but you can obtain it by using this filter on your phone in your videos, and you can create this illusion. And like of course that is damaging to our self-esteem and our self-image. And that's why, like, for me, I just refuse to use filters unless it's for like educational purposes, where I'm showing my viewers and you guys, like, this is what I look like with a filter on and this is what I look like without, and showing you for that educational piece. But on a day-to-day, on my posts, on my videos, I do not use filters because of how damaging it can be to continuously see yourself filtered and edited, and then you look in the mirror and you look nothing like that, and you're like confused, and you start to kind of compare yourself to yourself with these filters on, you know? So I totally get why people feel like this. Some other people said they feel awful about beauty filters, and they feel like it makes them feel not beautiful enough. And this is kind of what I was going back to, right? Like, it creates this whole turmoil in our brain of like, I'm not enough because I don't look like myself with this filter on, or I'm not enough because I don't look like this other person on social media on that has this filter on. You know what I mean? So, this is a really interesting one. So, a response to how someone feels about filters. They said, they make me feel like I'm only pretty with makeup. Interesting. I need a sip of tea for that one. This is a really interesting one in my opinion, because a lot of these filters, especially these TikTok ones, or even the Instagram story ones, have you noticed how they like have makeup on them? Like, you could be like bare face, no makeup, chilling at home, and you turn on your camera and you apply this filter, and all of a sudden you have lashes on, your eyebrows are done, you have a beautiful blush on, your lips are nice and glossy and full, and you look like you just spent 20 minutes doing your makeup, but really it's just a slide of your finger, a click of a button, and boom, filter applied, your makeup's done. So I think this comment is interesting because, then you start to think, oh, well, I'm only pretty if I have makeup on. And then when we go on our phones to take a photo of ourselves, it's like automatically I have to put this filter on that does my makeup for me, you know, and then I will feel pretty. So that, I think, in itself is super damaging too, because you're beautiful without makeup or with makeup, and you don't need a filter to fit that standard of beautifulness, you know? Like, you are just as beautiful with or without the filter, or with and without the makeup, you know? So I'm so sorry you feel that way about these filters, and that's why I'm bringing up this conversation. That's why we're talking about it, because it can definitely be very damaging. Someone else said, like, I'm not already pretty. Fuck that though, because yes, I am pretty. Exactly. Yes, you are just as beautiful even without the beauty filter on, even without any filters on these apps. Like, stop comparing yourself to this like imaginary image that is this filter. Someone said insecure, disappointed. Someone said bad. Someone said like shit. Like, see, very similar responses here, you know. Inadequate, like an imposter, insecure, ugly and defeated. See, very, very similar responses here. And imposter's an interesting one, because like I said before, you start to compare yourself to this unattainable version of yourself, and you start to not like the real version of yourself. So you feel like an imposter because you're like, well, I don't look like that filtered version of myself that I'm trying to obtain. Oh, this is such an interesting conversation to me, and I this is the reason I wanted to bring this up, because wow. Can you believe, like, in today's society, like, we are so dependent on how we look on social media and how we are perceived by the world, that there are like millions probably like of these filters on these apps. Like, just when you go on TikTok or Instagram, like, you could scroll probably forever through these beauty filters, ones with different makeup looks, and ones with different lashes and lip colors, and ones that make your face slimmer, and ones that add freckles, and like literally everything. And I get it, like, when Snapchat first came out, right? Like, because that's kind of where filters started, right? Snapchat, the face filters, like the dog filter and all this stuff. And I just remember, like, when they first came out, we kind of had like these funny filters that would just like adjust our face, or like throw a dog filter on us, or like all this stuff, right? But then slowly we started to see these filters adjusting our faces. You know, you'd put the dog filter on, but then suddenly your skin was just a little bit smoother than it was without the filter on. Do you remember like the blue butterfly filter on Snapchat, right? Like so cute. It added like these blue butterflies around your head, but all of a sudden your eyes were a little brighter and your skin was a little more glowy and your lips were just a little more plump and your cheekbones were a little more snatched. So it just adjusted you in the perfect tiny amounts that you would like that filter version a little bit more. And these continued. Your eyes would change color, they'd be brighter, or your lips would be bigger. And the smooth skin one, oh my gosh, like all these filters on Snapchat smoothed out your skin and just snatched you in a little bit. And I remember when I first started really dealing with acne around the age of like 13, 14, 15, 16, like in that teenage year span. And this is kind of the time where those Snapchat filters really started to gain traction. I remember like I would not send a photo out to someone unless I had a filter on my face. And looking back at that, it makes me so incredibly sad because nowadays, like, you kind of catch me dead, like, using a filter on Snapchat, unless it's one of those, like, really funny ones where, like, it makes you bald or something, and I'll send it to my brother to give him a good laugh, like, stuff like that, but these, like, beauty filters, like, I would use these when I was a teenager, like, religiously. There was not one photo that I didn't send out, and I remember especially when I was makeup free and I would be Snapchatting someone, I loved using the filters that would, like, put a mask across your face, or the dog filter, because it would cover up the lower half of my face, and that is where I was experiencing lots of cystic and hormonal acne. So I would do anything, just, like, throw a filter on to cover that up. And that way, like, if I was chilling at home, I didn't have to wear a full face of makeup, because at that time, like, I was piling on the makeup to make sure that nobody saw me with acne. Like, that was, like, the worst thing that could have happened, is if someone that I went to school with, like, knew that I had acne, even though you could see it under the makeup, obviously. And it's funny because I was so comfortable posting YouTube videos, like bare skin at the start of my makeup tutorials, but there was something about, like, going out in person that was so different for me, and something I couldn't, like, really do. Like, I would not go to school without a full face of makeup on, or go to the grocery store. And these Snapchat filters, like, I could be chilling at home, but it would, like, apply this mask or smooth out my skin or cover parts of my face, and all of a sudden I felt pretty. I felt enough. I felt way better because my skin looked like how I wish it looked, something that wasn't attainable for me at the time. And I don't think I realized at the time how damaging that was to my self-esteem, because I started to only love myself and love how I looked with these filters on. And I'd look in the mirror and I didn't have that smooth skin. I didn't have, all those features that filter was putting on me. So I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. I didn't like what I was seeing back at me. And that's when you start with the comments, and that's when you start kind of the self-hate and stuff. So I think, we have these, like, face filters, but it extends so much more than that nowadays. Like, there's so much editing going on social media, things that you don't even know are edited, and the slightest tweaks can really have a huge effect. Like, think of, like, body editing, right? How many people do you think edit their body or edit their face, like Facetune it or Photoshop it before they post it? Even, like, small tweaks, they really make a big difference, They just, like, snatch in their waist a little bit more, or, like, pull out their booty a bit more to look a bit fuller, or, pull out their hips so they don't have hip dips, or, like, just these little things, or, like, tuck in their arm a little, like, and it's like we're taking, these little itty bitty transformations on our photos, but those little changes are really taking, like, just the human part away out of us, and kind of animating us to this, like, unattainable beauty standard of, like, the small waist and the big hips. And I'm not saying that, like, that body type is, like, unexistent in real life. It definitely exists, but, like, not everyone has it. And that's because we are all so uniquely beautiful. Like, we're not all supposed to be on this earth with, like, the exact same figure and the exact same skin and the same eyes and everything. Like, that is the whole point of all of us having our unique beauty. But with social media, and I think with beauty standards and all, like, we've really become trained to think that we all have to fit this mold, and these editing apps have really made it easy for that to happen, because it's so simple. You do it on your phone. You just literally take your finger and adjust what you want to adjust. You blur out what you want to blur. You tuck in what you want to tuck in. Like, it's just insane to me. And I'm a culprit of it too. Like, when I first started posting makeup photos when I was like 15, 16. As I said, I didn't have smooth skin at all. I struggled with acne, but I really loved makeup. I still do, but at the time, like, it was like that 2016 like heavy glam makeup, you know, the full brow, the full like coverage foundation, the highlighter. Oh my gosh, the powder highlights, like that would bring out so much texture on the skin if you didn't have perfectly smooth skin. So I would do my makeup like these makeup artists I was seeing in all the beauty influencers. But it's crazy because I would post YouTube videos showing the makeup look like in real lighting and everything, but when I post the photos on Instagram, I would not post it unless it like went through Facetune, and I would smooth out my blemishes and make my eyebrows a little more sharp and make the eyeshadow pop a bit more and just make the photo really look like that 2016 makeup and make it look flawless and make it look, you know, influencer standard before I'd post it, which is crazy because it's like makeup doesn't look like that in real life. And it's actually funny because I went to my first brand trip recently and I got to meet a bunch of influencers and people that I know off social media and off TikTok and stuff. And one of the things I did notice is these people's makeup did not look the same like in person, which of course I expected, because when you are online in front of bright lights, you know, some of them may be using filters. I don't know, nothing confirmed, but like maybe they are, right? Maybe they're using a beauty filter. Their skin is going to look so different. Their makeup is going to look so different. And in their photos, they're able to make those adjustments and edit their photos before posting them. So of course their face and their makeup and all these things are going to look different. But I got to see a lot of these people in real life, and seeing them up close, I'm like, wow, you don't look the exact same as you do on your videos or on your photos. So that's definitely an interesting piece too. And I do think that to like the normal consumer of TikTok and Instagram and all these social media platforms, you don't see the filters, you don't see the lighting and the effects that can have. For me as a creator, I know that if I turn off this ring light in front of me, my skin is going to look so much different. You're going to really see the texture, you're going to really see the makeup sitting on my face, but because I have the light on, it kind of washes that out and kind of makes, you know, everything a little more smooth. So when I see someone online with perfect lighting, I know that their makeup doesn't look exactly like that in real life with overhead lighting or with natural sunlight. But as someone who maybe, you know, doesn't make content, you're maybe not going to see that, right? And so you're going to compare how you look to someone online who not only maybe has a filter on, but has, you know, this perfect lighting and those perfect angles. So it's really something to start thinking about, and something I want you to take away from this and kind of be just more mindful when you're consuming social media, and kind of have that question, you know, up front, like, just kind of think about, this person may not look like this in real life, you know, and maybe they do, but maybe the video is filmed in such a way that their skin might look different, you know, in different lighting. Like, I'm sitting here in real life, you know, I look like this in front of a ring light. There's no filter on this video, but if I go over to my bathroom where there's overhead lighting, my skin is going to look different. Both images are real life photos, but they can look different based on the circumstances. So I just want you to take away from this podcast at least that, and just be a little more cautious and mindful when you're consuming social media, to kind of put those questions to the front and be like, okay, this person's makeup looks great, but like, I have to consider they're sitting in front of a ring light. They may have a beauty filter on, you know, like, ask yourself those things and have those thoughts while you're consuming this content, and it'll probably help you and stop you from that instant comparison that you might be inclined to do. All right, moving on. All right, going back to people's responses to how they feel about these beauty filters. Someone said, it makes me feel better knowing that everyone uses them, even people with perfect skin. You know, it's crazy to me that they've become like so normalized, and I see all these people with beautiful, like flawless skin, and they have the beauty filter on TikTok. And you can't even notice because TikTok doesn't even tell you that there's a beauty filter on, which I think is an issue in itself. I think there definitely should be something disclosing that they have beauty mode on. And you know what really gets me, and I just will never understand this, is there's so many creators out there. I'm not gonna put names out there, but there are a lot of beauty creators, people who review makeup and skincare, and they're showing you how products look on their skin, but they have the beauty filter on, they have beauty mode on TikTok, or they have a filter on Instagram. And I just don't understand that, because it's like, you are trying to show us a product and how it works on your skin and how it applies and how it wears, but it's like, your skin has been smoothed over by this filter. Like, that's not going to be a fair representation to your audience of how it's actually going to look. So I've always found that interesting, and that's why I never like filter my videos. I just don't see the point of it. Like, I'm showing you guys how a product actually looks on the skin. So just an interesting thought there. And you know what is actually baffling to me, and maybe this will blow some of your minds away, you know, like, even YouTube videos can be filtered, and probably some of your favorite creators out there are using video filters, because nowadays, like, the editing is insane, and a lot of these big creators have like editors that can do this, and they even have cameras that have filters on them. Look at like the Samsung phones. You can literally open up your camera app and automatically your face has beauty filter on. It's smoothed out, it's tweaked just a little bit to make you look a little bit better in the eyes of like the beauty standard, you know? So a lot of YouTube videos are also filtered. There's lots of great content out there kind of exposing these filters and stuff, but there's definitely YouTubers that I've seen that I believe filter some of their videos, maybe not all of them, maybe I'm wrong, but I would say have more of an eye for this, because I know what it looks like. And I would say I've watched some of like Jeffree Star's videos or Nikki tutorials, and you see kind of that filter slightly shift on their face. And I would say to the regular consumer, it may not be completely obvious, but there have been some great videos out there made by like Cassandra Bankson and some other creators that kind of expose those filters and show you, you know, they kind of slow-mo it and then point it out like right where it shifts and you can kind of see it. Vogue Beauty Secrets, bet you weren't expecting that. They actually use beauty filters, I think. From what I've seen, I think they do use beauty filters on their videos, which makes me really sad, because a lot of these videos that Vogue puts out are skincare videos, makeup videos showing, you know, people's routines, some of our favorite celebrities and actresses and, you know, public figures. Like, we want to see their routines. I want to see what makeup they use and I want to see what skincare they use. But when I sit there and think like, is there a filter on that? Like, their skin just like looks too good to be true. It takes the fun out of it, you know? It really takes the fun out of it, because then you start comparing yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, like their skin looks so beautiful. Oh, what products do they use? Like, oh, well, if they use this $300 face mask and they look like that, I need that $300 face mask to look like that and have that smooth skin. But then it's like, well, you're never going to look like that unless you put the filter on that they're using in the videos, right? So it's just interesting. That's all I have to say. It's very interesting, and I don't really get why they filter like beauty videos, because really the point of it is to see like, what do these products look like on real human skin. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested to see how it looks on a filter. I'm not. Somebody said that filters make them insecure, but they know they're also trying to show the best of themselves on TikTok. This is interesting, because I think that's this whole thing of social media, is just showing, like, if you think of like Instagram, I think TikTok, they're doing a better job, because a lot of people are more like transparent on TikTok and they're more like open to just like showing themselves candidly. But Instagram is definitely a highlight reel of your life. You show the best parts on there. So of course you're going to pick out the photo out of the 200 you just took on your camera roll. You're going to pick out that best selfie that has, you know, the best angle and your skin looks the best on. And then maybe you'll run it through Facetune and do some little tweaks here and there, and that's what you're going to post, because you want to put out that, you know, perfect looking photo of yourself. So that just feeds into it all, because then we put that out as content. But then on the flip side, when you are, you know, at the end of the day in bed, your hair is thrown up, you're in sweats, you're like just chilling, you know, you don't have your makeup done, like you're just chilling. And you may look like a little, you know, you're not that like, you're not at like your glow up with like your makeup on and everything. You just look like a normal person enjoying their night or whatever. But we're sitting there and we're consuming this content that everyone else has put out, that maybe you put out as well, that perfect snapshot of your life where you look just perfectly put together. And then you're consuming that, and then you're starting to compare yourself, like, oh, I don't look at that in this moment. But like, it's like you did earlier in the day when you took that perfect photo, you know? So it's like, we got to really think like these photos are just snapshots. They're not moving pieces of how we look like throughout the day, all day long, you know? So I think that's super important. And it's very important to understand that people are just using these filters to try to look their best in that moment, that they don't actually look like that, right? Like all day long, you know? Someone said they make them feel confident yet self-conscious at the same time. And that's what I mean. Like, you put the filter on immediately and you like see all these little tweaks it's making to yourself and you're like, ooh, I look good. And you're like taking photos of yourself and you're taking videos and you're like, ooh, like, you're just feeling yourself. But then as soon as you take that filter off and you see yourself in the camera app or in the mirror, all of a sudden you're self-conscious. So you see how it creates this, like, it's like a double-edged sword, honestly. It really is a double-edged sword using these filters, because they may make you feel good in that exact snapshot of a moment, but then it can create this really bad lasting effect and lingering effect of just like creating a bad self-image of yourself. Exactly. Someone else agreed with this. They said they make me feel better about myself when they're on, but then when I take it off, I feel worse. Yeah. And that's the kind of trouble with these filters. Someone said I feel horrible because I have acne and I'm not happy. And then someone else said they make me feel lonely with my skin, worthless, insecure, and sad. And I think that's, you know, when, as someone who also struggles with acne, seeing perfectly smooth skin online really got me in this bad mindset of like, oh, like, everyone has clear skin except me. You know, I would look online, I would scroll on social media, and I was like, nobody has acne except me. I'm the only person on this planet with acne. Like, why is everyone's skin so perfect? But it's like, I've posted photos on social media where I was having a really good skin day and probably people were looking at my skin in that photo like, she has such good skin, you know? Like, so you can't compare yourself to snapshots of people. And you also have to consider this photo might have gone through that editing. It might have had a filter on it. Like, you can't constantly compare yourself. And actually, something I discussed in episode 2 of Loud Talk with Lavi, I had a guest on, Angelina Rivera. We had an amazing conversation actually about cleansing your social media and getting people who look like you on your social media. And I think that creates a big help. You know, if you have acne and filters make you insecure because you're seeing all these smooth skin, perfect looking, you know, glass skin people on your social media, cleanse your social media and put people on your social media. Follow people that maybe don't have perfect skin, like me, who like has acne and shows that on social media, right? So like, make sure you're cleansing your social media and you're filtering your own social media to represent you. And find people on social media that look like you, because you're going to look at these other people and you're going to think they are gorgeous and you're going to see all the beautiful features in them. And then you're going to sit there and think, and you're like, wait, but like that person shares a feature with me. So like, you're going to start to feel a little bit better about yourself each day. So really curate your social media so that it represents you and that it can help you feel your most confident and best. Because if you're following a bunch of people that simply don't look like you and don't, you know, have the same characteristics and just don't represent who you are, you're going to start to compare yourself, and that's when you're going to start to get in that bad cycle. So I definitely recommend curate your social media for you. Someone said filters make them feel uneasy and sad, and they just want to see people's normal, beautiful faces. I feel the same. Honestly, every time I'm on social media or on Instagram stories especially, and I'm, you know, clicking through the stories and I see people applying makeup or skincare, whatever, and I feel like a lot of celebrities do this. Like, I've seen Kylie Jenner do this, where she applies makeup or she does a makeup tutorial and she has a filter on, like a butterfly filter, or like, what are those filters, like pretty eyes filter, or like, I don't even know what the filters are called these days, but those type of filters that I'm just so confused, because I'm like, I can't even tell what that makeup actually looks like. Like, the filter already has blush on it and you're applying blush. Like, I have no idea what that color looks like, right? So it's definitely very interesting, because it's like, I just want to see what you look like. I just want to see your real skin. I want to see your texture. I want to see your pores. I want to see your lines. I don't want to see a filter. And every time I see people post photos with filters, it really just like, it makes me feel like, it makes me feel like uncomfortable, you know, like, because I just want to see the realness. I'm sick and tired of seeing all these filtered photos. What's that Post Malone, was it Post Malone lyric? Like, I'm so sick and tired of the Photoshop, or is it Drake? I don't even remember, but like that quote, that song lyric, I'm so sick and tired of the Photoshop. Like, seriously, I'm so sick and tired of it. I just want to see people's real faces, because y'all are so beautiful. Take off the damn filter. I don't want to see it. Like, I just think it's so damaging to our mental health. And in this, you know, constant like comparison on social media, just like, what if we just like all agree to stop using filters, show our real selves, and we can really put these stupid beauty standards to the ground and just show our flaws and love them and really just create this positive space? That would be like my ultimate dream. If I could do that, that would be amazing. let's like help me do this, please. Like, I really want to start creating that movement a little bit more of just like showing your real self on social media and, you know, encouraging others to show them real selves and creating this space of just positivity and loving every flaw we have that is really just so beautiful. So yeah, I wish that would be true. And I wish maybe one day filters won't be as normalized as they are today. Ooh, someone said, I feel like I always ask myself, why don't I look like that? That's what I said before, right? You compare yourself to that filter. Actually, it makes me feel worse about myself because I know I don't look like that, but I wish I did again, right? Like reaching for that unattainable version of yourself, that version of you with the filter on. Increases body dysmorphia. Of course it increases body dysmorphia because then you start to really compare yourself to yourself and you're like, wait. And it's like confusing, right? Because it's like, wait, who do I look like anymore? What do I actually look like, right? So it's definitely interesting. I definitely want to add in a bit of my, you know, I've been sprinkling in my opinion on filters throughout, but I definitely want to give like my overall thoughts. I kind of went through most of the comments there and a lot of these similar ones. And overall, I think the common conception on filters is that people feel defeated, they feel insecure, they feel like they're trying to reach this unattainable version of themselves where they're comparing themselves to themselves or other people on social media. And really, it just makes them feel more shitty about themselves, even though if in that moment when they're using the filter, they feel just a tad more confident, but afterwards it kind of creates this lingering negative effect and kind of, you know, bad headspace where you're just kind of like shitting on yourself, you know? So I think that people need to become more aware of how normalized filters are and how commonly they are used. And then when you are scrolling on social media, you can kind of go in with that mindset and realize that not everything you're seeing is true. And maybe someone isn't even using a filter, but you have to consider like it's just a snapshot. Or in a TikTok video, they have that lighting, you know, like they don't look like that all the time, right? And maybe they do. But then find people on social media that look like you if you're going to get yourself in that bad comparing headspace. I don't think that that's the right approach, and I think it's really, really toxic. I used to do that a lot. Like when I first got on social media, it was so much comparison of comparing myself to people who had clear skin. And let me tell you, once I started following more people that had skin like mine and that had acne, I started to feel so much better. And honestly, the comments that make me the most happy every single day are the comments that tell me, you made me feel so much better about my skin. You made me feel more confident about my acne. And that's really my mission here on social media, is to just make you feel a little bit more confident in your skin every single day. And I think it's really, really important to kind of cut it at the source and stop yourself from comparing yourself to so many people on social media, because you have that power. You have that power to make sure that you are not putting all your energy into that comparison game. And if filters make you feel crappy about yourself, I would encourage you to not really use them so much. Even though they might feel really good in the moment and they might make you feel less insecure in that second, I encourage you to stop using them, because it will create a better lasting effect of you being able to build confidence in your actual real self and start to love how you actually look in the mirror and how you actually look in the camera rather than this filtered version of yourself. So that's what I really encourage you to do. And it might not be easy, but day by day, step by step, take off that filter. And I promise you, day by day, I always say fake till you make it, but one day you will look at yourself in the camera or in the mirror and you will love what you see back. So I really encourage you to take off that filter, curate your social media, and also be a conscious consumer of social media. Go into it and realize that not every image out there is real. Or if it's real, consider the effects that might be put on that photo that make it real with a little asterisk. Real if you have the ring light and the angle and maybe this filter on, consider those things when you're consuming social media, and consider that really nothing out there is real, because it might make you feel a little bit better. But in my opinion, I think filters should be canceled. I really wish they were canceled. I think they're so damaging to our self-image, and they really impose this beauty standard on us. Because if you think about it, at least from all the filters I see on social media, they all fit the same beauty standard, perfect smooth skin, bigger lips, snatched face, cheekbones, smaller nose, little waist, big hips, like bigger boobs, like they all fit the same beauty standard. And the thing is, beauty standards should not be a trend in my opinion, because they are constantly changing, right? What was trendy as a beauty standard years ago is now a different trendy beauty standard. And it's like, why are we making our bodies and our faces and our like perfect human selves, why are we making those trends, and why are we changing them up? Because then it's like you start to chase these trends, and you're always chasing the beauty standard and the trend. It's like, it's so exhausting. So like, once you just like let go of that rope and stop running after these beauty standards, trust me, you will become so much happier in your body and in yourself, and you can start focusing on things that you actually want to achieve, and things that you want to work for. So like, I'm putting in the work to heal my acne and heal my scarring, but I'm not chasing this beauty standard of perfect glass skin, because that doesn't exist. I know that, once I even take my acne scars down, the redness goes down, I know my skin's not going to be perfectly glass smooth. I'm going to have pores, I'm going to have some acne scarring left, and some, pitted scarring, and just some texture, but that's okay. I'm able to heal my skin. I have goals for my skin, but I'm not chasing this unattainable beauty standard. And I think that's really the big takeaway here. Stop chasing after these unattainable beauty standards that these filters and this social media sets out for us, and just set your own goals for yourself and set your own beauty standards. Be your own beauty standard. Look at yourself in the mirror today and say, that is my beauty standard. Please just do it. Just please, after you watch this podcast, or while you're watching this, look in the mirror or say to yourself that you are your own beauty standard. And I'll say it to you right now. You are your own beauty standard. And that's how it should be. We should be our own beauty standard, and there shouldn't even be a standard. You are just your own beauty. There you go. You are just beautiful the way you are. And of course, I think it's the same thing as like loving yourself with and without makeup. Love yourself with and without the filter. And if you can get to a place where you can use a filter in a healthy way, in a fun way, and just, you can switch up your look a little bit, but still come back and love your skin, love how you look without the filter, I think that's a really healthy and positive place to be at. But sometimes I think that they can be, actually, a lot of the time I think they can be really, really damaging, and for a lot of people it's really hard to be in that place where you can turn it on and off and it doesn't affect you. I know for me that's still not the case, and I'm very comfortable and confident in myself, but I just don't think that it creates a healthy narrative for me to be using filters, and I know how they really make me feel, and I know how over the years I really struggled to let go of using filters. So that's why I make the conscious decision not to use them, and especially as a content creator, I think it would be so deceiving if I tried to use filters on you guys. One, you would know. Second of all, what would I even be reviewing, and what would I even be showing you if I'm just slapping a filter on top of it, right? So, of course, I always love being transparent with you guys and showing you my real skin and all of that. But, oh my gosh, I always get into these topics and I get so heated in them because I'm just super passionate about them, but I think it's definitely an important conversation to have, and I think filters are so concentrated and so saturated in our social media nowadays that it's important to have these conversations and kind of reel it back in, realize these are not we don't walk around in real life with filters on, right? So it's why do we constantly need them on social media? And that's another part I find kind of funny, because it's some people use filters on literally everything. They will not post a photo on social media without a filter on, but it's once you walk out into the world, that's not how you look in real life. You're going to have to face people without a filter on, and that's the truth. That's the brutal truth of it. And I really learned my lesson with that when I was constantly using filters on my face and to cover my acne and to kind of smooth out my skin. But it's at the end of the day, I was having to walk out into real life with my very smooth, bumpy acne skin, and that's the reality. So it's I had a very clear choice. I could be miserable in my skin and only love this filtered version of myself, or I could choose to be happy and love my skin and work on it day by day to gain that confidence and not rely on a beauty filter anymore. And I'm really, really happy I got to that stage, and you have the absolute power to do that as well. You absolutely have that power, and I hope that, if you're not already on that journey, that this is the starting point for you today, because I truly believe in that quote. What did it say? One day or day one. and this could be your day one of learning to love yourself. So I hope that through Loud Talk or through my pages or through some other amazing creators on social media, because there are a ton of them that really, spread this message of being able to learn to love yourself a bit more. I hope through that you can just learn just to love yourself a little bit more and learn a little bit more of that self-confidence. So yeah, it can be day one. It can, this is a constant journey. It's not linear, but I hope that you can get on that road and keep driving down it and get to that place where you can feel comfortable in your skin. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been talking forever. Well, I kind of have been, but I should end this off. I think we've talked enough. I think I've said filters so many times. Honestly, this episode should have been a drinking game. Maybe some of you already thought about that at the beginning of the pod, but honestly, maybe you should just take a drink every time I say filter in this podcast, because actually don't do that. That's not healthy. Don't do that. But I should have definitely made a game out of this, because I said filter probably 1,002 times at this point. But all right, I think we should wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in into this episode of Loud Talk with Lavi. I loved hanging out with you today, and hopefully you enjoyed as well. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know down below in the comments what you liked, what you think about beauty filters. I want to know your thoughts, and also what you want to see on future topics on this podcast. And if you're listening in on Apple, Spotify, or any other of our streaming platforms, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you so much. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel, and also check out our Instagram, TikTok, and Shorts page for the short form highlights of this podcast, so you can see those, top highlight moments of each podcast. If you just want to look back at it, if you just want like a little bit more content, definitely go check that out. And of course, if you are, listening to this podcast and you have no idea who I am, you can go check me out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Is that all of them? Yeah, at Lavinia Rusanda. I also have a Discord page, a skin positivity page, where you can connect with others on their journey and connect with me as well. I'd love to hear from you on there and get to know you a little bit better. But thank you so much for tuning in. I had so much fun filming this episode, like always. I love you guys all so much, and I encourage you to tell yourself something you love about your skin today and continue just growing that confidence in yourself, because you are absolutely beautiful and you deserve to tell yourself that every single day. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. That's it for this episode of Loud Talk, and I'll see you in the next one, or I guess you'll listen to me in the next one. Bye.